Great. Hey, everybody. This is Abe Safas, Contact Junkie here with Greg Harrelson. We did a little while ago, did a Level Up podcast with Greg and had a bunch of agents kind of reach out to me and just ask a few questions about, hey, as a brand new agent, I love what you did and great advice from Greg. Just if you can give me a couple of tips on what to do as a brand new agent, and some of the more common questions that we got were, okay, who do you call? How do you get phone numbers? Do you role play and things like that? So I just wanted to have a follow-up conversation with you, Greg, on that.
Okay.
Since you're the master at this, and kind of let's assume we got a brand new agent just going new into the business of real estate. Okay. What do you say? Like, where should they start?
So I'm assuming, I think what you're doing is you're asking that question as if I was to take a brand new agent into the company, and what are some of the things, what would I start telling them to do?
Absolutely. How would you guide somebody brand new into the business?
Yeah. So let's get beyond the okay, brand new in the business, you got to understand all the ins and outs of our company. We'll go beyond that. So
Right.
You've kind of officially been onboarded, at our company. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to strongly urge the agent to master their scripts. And what I would be doing is I have a program here, we call it script certification, that I'm going to basically tell them that they've got to be script certified, which means they've got to learn the scripts inside and out and be able to demonstrate that to somebody in the office. In other words, they've got to recite those scripts and demonstrate that they know the scripts before I would really want them to get started in making any calls or having any conversations about selling real estate. So that's number one. If I was going to only choose one, it would be learn the scripts. I'm going to give two though. And the second thing would be, when you learn the script, make massive contacts. In other words, you've got to have a massive amount of conversations. Just like if you have a son or a daughter, a child that comes up to you and says, man, I really want to start playing basketball, or I want to be a better basketball player. What are you going to do? You're going to take them to the gym and you're going to have them shooting over and over again. You're going to do it and take massive action in the area of practicing so they can actually hone in, so they can work on their shot. Maybe they want to shoot more free throws. Well, if you want to learn how to shoot more free throws or make a higher percentage of the free throws that you shoot, how do you do it? Everybody knows the answer. Everybody that's going to hear this recording should have and probably did answer, just actually practice a lot. So if we just keep this simple and realize that the people that are at the top of their game and mastered other things to a high level, they got there because of practice. So there's nothing else to tell a new agent but the same thing as that. Practice. Take a lot of reps.
Absolutely. So a couple of follow-up questions, right? Because
Yeah.
I've gotten a couple of these questions as well. Let's kind of talk about the importance of a script, right? Because there's a lot of resistance when it comes to scripts, especially a new agent. If they're not experienced in selling, the resistance usually comes in the form of, and I was there. It comes in the form of, I don't want to sound like a robot. I don't want to sound too repetitive. I don't want to sound like every other agent in the market. Talk about the importance of why is it important to actually have a script?
Well, it's so you can navigate through a conversation without getting so far off track, and you can keep it on point and make sure that you're focusing on what's important to focus on, or talking about what's important to talk about, and not getting too off track. So like, people without scripts, a lot of times what they'll do is, you'll find that if I was to take a stopwatch and do a stopwatch test on them while they're engaging and having conversations, somebody that's not on script, and every time they start talking about something that's not related to the real estate transaction, if I hit the stopwatch button and let it and calculate it, how much time are they talking, and it's not about the real estate transaction, the person that's not on script, they will spend way more time in talking about things that don't matter, that don't lead into any type of transaction, or even get you to a place where you'll identify that there is no transaction at the end of that conversation. If I take a stopwatch and do the stopwatch test on somebody that's on script, and you'll see that they stay in the dialogue about selling real estate, buying real estate more often. And that just helps you move the lead through the selling process or through the funnel a lot faster. When you were first asking this question, I wrote a note down though. And because I think one of the questions that I don't get too often, I get this from real estate owners and teams and brokerages, but I don't really get it from agents themselves. And that is this question: why don't agents like scripts? Why does everyone hate scripts? Why does anybody even say, why did you even say or think you would sound like a robot? I mean, like, that has nothing to do with the script.
Right.
Because, let me give you I'll demonstrate how scripts are words in a certain sequence. That's all it is. Like I go into the retail store. No, I'm just looking. See, that's no, I'm just looking. That's 4 words in a sequence that we repeat we repeat those 4 words in the same sequence. That's all a script is. That's what a script is. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the key is when we're in conversation, words have practically very little meaning to conversation. So I could say to you, shut up. Or I could say to you, shut up. Mm-hmm. You see how it's the same 2 words in the same exact sequence, but anybody who's listening to this right now just made up a totally different story about what I meant. See, the script has nothing. Script is words in a sequence. It has nothing to do with sounding robotic. What makes you sound robotic if you said, shut up, shut up, shut up. But who the hell actually talks like that? The scripts have nothing to do with sounding robotic. And I think if I could say, why do people not use scripts? Why do they make up stuff about I'm going to sound canned, I'm going to sound robotic? That's all a bunch of resistance. What I'm trying to share with people is that stuff you're making up, that it's words in a certain sequence that we know when you use those words in that sequence, good results come, but you have to use your personality. Just your voice inflection and your tonality is what really makes scripts work.
Absolutely. I love how you broke that down, and you're absolutely right. And I'm willing to even bet the way you said shut up twice, that the inflection and the tonality of how you said it, people hear that more than they actually heard the 2 words that you said. So that I think it weighs even heavier than the actual words that you said, which I think what you were saying as well. So
yeah, good. I'm glad you kind of though brought more attention to that, because that's really what my true intention of what I was trying to explain. Yes.
Yeah, and we could go a whole lot deeper. And you and I have had conversations in the past about tonality and about pauses and hearing what people aren't saying or saying, but that's a whole different conversation. Maybe we'll do that one day. So scripts, extremely important. Whether you like them, don't like them. I hated them as a new agent, but it's a part of the process, right? So above and beyond being able to navigate and staying on point, like to me, what scripts meant was gaining confidence. Like I knew what to say, because you're going to get off track. They're going to say something. They're going to even bring up the weather. It could be anything. That person on the other side of the phone is going to say something that's going to get you off track. Sure. So having a script gives you the confidence in, first of all, knowing what to say. And then once you do go off track, knowing exactly where to go back to get back on point and finish the conversation. So now another question I get is, what script do we use? Do you have a preference? Does it really matter on what script? Because there's a ton of scripts out there. Is there one that you would recommend over the others?
No.
Okay. No. Just use one. Anyone.
Yes, I mean, this is an old cliche, and I resist saying it because I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. The only script that really matters is the one that you'll use, that is the truth. I don't care. I use the Mike Ferry scripts. Go to Mike Ferry's website, download them suckers for free, and you're good to go. But you know what? It's because I've been around Mike Ferry forever. Maybe if I was around another coach, if I was around Tom Ferry or Buffini or somebody else, I'd be telling you to go download their scripts for free and master them. So it's just, you could Google about any script and take it and learn it. And again, they're just words in a sequence. What's going to make the difference is your tonality and your inflection. And your
Gotcha.
body language if you're in front of people.
Absolutely. And then you said practice early on. You said definitely make massive contacts, which we talked about in the Level Up podcast. A lot of people were amazed that I made 12,000 contacts that first year.
Yes.
But knowing you all these years, I knew the importance of that. Going in as a brand new agent, there is no business. So making that many contacts, making massive contacts is what kickstarted my career in real estate. So that's a great point.
Can I add to that? Because
sure,
what most companies and coaches will do, well, no, not coaches. Coaches will probably say something a little bit more similar, but with variations of what I'm referring to right now. But what a lot of companies do when they get new agents, and I think this is a huge disadvantage for a new agent cutting into the business, is the companies will say, okay, well, why don't you get all your friends and your family members and everybody you know in church and at the ball game, put them in a database and start mailing them and calling them and let them know that you're in the business and all that. Look, yes, do all that, but like you don't even have much confidence in yourself. Right. The last thing that you're going to have confidence is going and doing a listen presentation with a friend or a family member who's going to judge you more than anyone will ever judge you in your life. So you're going to have the most critical judge judging you when you probably have the least amount of confidence. That's what these new agents, they actually hear all that, and they don't like to hear all that, but that's all brokerages and owners are usually telling their agents. And then it's when those agents actually realize that, okay, I'm going to have to go out and make massive contacts in order to generate confidence and generate leads. That's where the breakthrough comes from.
Absolutely.
When I'm with you, I just, in my office, I just bypass all that BS and just tell you exactly what you like. Now, what some agents will do is they'll run away. But what are they running away from? They're running away from their fears. It's really not that they didn't like what I said. It's just they don't really understand like how to overcome the fear. And but I just my commitment is just to I'm not going to waste an agent's time by telling them what they want to hear. I'm going to tell them what they may not want to hear, but they need to hear.
Absolutely. So while we're in a conversation of contacts, what do you recommend? First, starting off, just listed, just sold. Big portion, right?
I recommend you do that because you can do a high volume,
right?
And so that's where you can get a lot of reps.
And what's really cool about just listed, just sold, going out to your friends and family members, they know, like you said, it's the toughest thing to go on a listing presentation with them. They know that you're brand new in the business. They know you don't have the skills or the experience to get a home sold. So any business you get from there is going to be a charity. As opposed to if you're sitting there making contact after contact with someone that you don't know, you can fake it till you make it, right? So you can be the expert on the other line, just like online right now. There are so many experts in every single field there is. So you can actually be the expert with them, and they won't know. And then doing that, you'll gain the confidence and gain the experience to be able to go back to your friends and family at that point with a track record, and then be able to close them a whole lot easier. So like right now, I'm starting to get a lot more calls from my COI, which early on I had a hard time reaching out to them because of what you just said. But now that they've seen that, okay, now I've been in the business, going my 4th year, I don't know, closed maybe 300 properties already, or close to 300 properties. Now they're seeing that, so they're reaching out to me a lot more often and getting more of that business. So just listed, just sold, a little bit of COI. And then let's talk about the importance of a database, right? Because as you're talking to these people, let's talk about what should they be doing. Like, what should their focus be in a conversation as a brand new agent when you're making these contacts?
Wow, that's a good question. So there's a couple things, right? It's a this, then if it's a this, and if that doesn't happen, then it's a this, right? And then maybe it's a this too. So I think in the beginning, what you got to do, first off, it's important when you start making contacts. Wow, this is going to be a nugget, and I hope people really slow it down and listen to this one again. Isn't that pretty cool when, like, before I even say what I'm thinking, I'm just already congratulating myself. Sorry about that, but I'm telling you, this is a nugget.
Future facing.
Yes. Yeah. Even if it's not a nugget, hopefully they'll fall for me believing it was. Did I forget what I was going to say? So I remember thinking of this years ago as I'm coaching real estate agents. And that is, if you're making your calls just to make contacts, then all you're going to do is contacts. If you're making your calls to set appointments, then you're probably going to make a lot of contacts and set some appointments. Again, if you're making your calls only to make contacts so you can check it off the list, I made so many contacts, then all you're going to get is contacts. If you're going into your calling generation time with the mindset of I'm going in to get some appointments, then you're probably going to get some appointments and you're going to make a lot of contacts. If you go in and you say, I'm making some calls because I want to get some listings, I'm looking for listings, then you're going to get a listing every once in a while. You're probably going to set a bunch of appointments throughout time, and you're going to make a lot of contacts. My point here is this. Make sure you're very clear at what your intention is for the activity. Because if your intention is, I just need to make a lot of contacts, your listening is only going to be for a contact. Right. If your intention is to set appointments, your listening is going to be for opportunities for appointments. If your intention is to get listings, your listening is going to be for opportunities to get listings. So that's number one. Let's make sure that our minds, our heads are screwed on straight when we even get engaged in the activity.
Gotcha.
The second thing is to make sure you focus on just following the script, which is nothing more than asking questions. Gotcha. And listening. So if your head's screwed on straight and your intentions are right before you even make your first call, and you follow the scripts and you ask, this second thing would be follow your scripts and ask good questions, because from that, you'll determine whether or not there's an actual lead, if there's any motivation in anyone you're talking to. The last one that I would mention is when you identify there's no motivation to sell, at that time, your focus is maybe there's an opportunity for me to add somebody else to my database. Because one thing I know for sure, every single piece of real estate, maybe not every single, 99% of all real estate will eventually be sold. It's not a matter of whether or not somebody will sell. It's a matter of will they sell, and will they sell while you're still in real estate? I mean, it's going to sell. Right. It's just a matter of it's going to sell before you retire. If it's going to sell next year, who knows when it's going to sell. So you want to make sure that when you're getting no's in the earlier years, when you're getting a lot of no's, I'm not interested, see about how you can get those into your database, because they're going to sell. It just may be 3 or 4 years down the road.
Right. That's a good point. So going back to your intention early on. So like, just to give you an example, my first year, my intention coming in every morning was make 60 contacts. And that's what I focused on. Contact. Second year of business, my intention shifted, and we had a conversation about it. It shifted because I felt like I was making so many contacts, but I think it took my first year, somewhere in a range of 120 contacts to get a listing. So year number 2, I made a shift to my intention became get 3 appointments every single day. So the number of contacts, I don't want to say it's not important, but it wasn't the focus. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't like at the front of my mind. So it became get 3 3 appointments every single day. Now year 3 last year, I made another shift because remember now my skills are getting better. So now my intention last year was 1 listing per day. So my goal is, okay, I'm going to go through my expireds, go through my follow-ups, go through my database, who was going to list with me today. So that was my intention every single day, was to get 1 listing per day. So that was the first year. So that kind of talks about the progression that you're talking about. Initially, you might start off with just thinking, get contactitis. But eventually, as your skills get better, you want to be careful of what your intention is as you get better and really hone in on getting those listings. Yeah,
so in the coaching arena, there's a rule of thumb that you should be able to make 10 contacts per hour, okay, if you're just doing manual dialing. And so that's not the audio dial, just a manual dial. The reason I say that is because as a coach, if I'm looking at an agent and they tell me, man, I got 15 contacts I'm averaging 15 contacts per hour, then I automatically know at that moment that statistically speaking, it's impossible to get 15 contacts per hour and have quality conversations.
Right.
So you might be saying like, when do you plan on selling? You know, okay, I'm out of here, bye. It's like, yeah, you can make a lot of contacts. That's the contactitis side of it. So if you think like 10 contacts per hour is kind of that number. Now, some people are going to listen to this and they're going to say, hey, oh no, I don't know how you do 10 contacts an hour. I can only do like 5 contacts an hour. Well, then I know what you're doing. You're doing one of two things. You're either taking a lot of potty breaks, okay? And whether or not you're going to the potty or not, you're not like steady on calling. You're like calling, and then you got somebody, and then you started writing a bunch of notes about that person, and then you set that aside, and then you went and dialed another number. In other words, the time that elapses between the dials is too much, and that's accelerating the amount of time, or it's decreasing the amount of people you can talk to in an hour. So it's either that, or you're actually talking too much. You're talking, like somebody said, you hear a dog in the background. Like an agent does this all the time. They'll hear a dog barking in the background, and oh, what kind of dog do you have? Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, because you know what they're going to say. They're going to think, oh yeah, it's a this kind of dog. Oh, how old? Then you're going to say, how old is it? Oh, and then you're going to say, well, my dog is, and next thing you know, you got 3 minutes of conversation, 4 minutes, 5 minutes of conversation that has no relevance to real estate. So
right.
That's where your contacts are going to be low per hour.
Gotcha. Or I've seen some agents where, they get someone on the phone and they start asking, okay, well, how are the comps there? And then the agent stops, opens up their computer, starts doing searching. And then before you know it, you spent half an hour with that one contact and they just wanted information. So it comes down to efficiency, just like you just said. But again, it comes down to good conversations, and that's just going to come in time, right? Yeah. As you get better, as you make more contacts, you'll realize, wow, I'm not making as many contacts because I've actually had a 12-minute good conversation with this person and set an appointment.
Yeah, the muscle is developed over time with repetition.
Gotcha. Speaking of muscle, so role play, that's another big question I get, role play and practice. How often should someone practice? How often should they role play?
Well, so the reality is this: if you're a newer agent, or you're an agent that maybe lead generation is new to you. So it could be an agent that's been in the business for a while, but they're not doing lead generation, or a new agent that just needs to start off immediately with lead generation. They need to be role playing every day.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, sometimes, Abe, these questions, and this is with all respect to anybody that ever asked a question, because I'm sure I asked the same question, but sometimes these questions, like, we already really know the answer. Like if I was going to ask Michael Jordan, let me ask you this, how often do you think Michael Jordan should have practiced? How often do you think Kobe Bryant should have practiced? How often do you think Phelps should have practiced? How often do you think Tiger Woods should have practiced? How often do you think, somebody that's a master of any art should have practiced? And the answer to everybody will obviously say yes. And then if I say, okay, well, let's not talk about those because maybe that was too obvious. If your child comes to you and says, I want to learn how to play basketball, what would you tell them? You got to practice, son. Got to practice, daughter. Mm-hmm. It's like, we already know the answer. Got to practice. Except when we're asking ourselves that question.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I actually, I was running a couple of days ago, and I'd listened to the podcast with you and Shadi.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because I had the same exact thought, and I put a note down here to talk about this. I put down Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. Right. So how much should you practice? It comes down to how good do you want to be, right? If you tried out for a basketball team, you want to be a JV player, fine, go out there and practice 5 minutes a day, right? If you want to be a Michael Jordan, if you want to be a Tiger Woods, there is no limit. There is no time limit. You practice and keep practicing and keep practicing. If you want to be the best in your field, that's what it takes. So you determine how much you want to practice depending on how good you want to be. It's really that simple.
Yeah, that's cool. I just wrote down a note. I've got all kinds of notes here.
Yeah, you could decide to be a JV player, a varsity player, or the best in the world. You decide where you want to be, and that's how you determine how much to practice.
So you can choose how much you want to practice. What most people don't understand, that instantly chooses how much result you're going to get.
Absolutely.
So it's like, you can't really say, oh, I'm going to choose to do 100 deals. And then you get 100 deals just because you chose it.
Right.
You're going to get what you're going to get based on the choice you make for mastering your craft or practicing your skill sets.
Got it.
I think that's one of the best things that, that we've done, within our organization is like, we're practicing every day.
Absolutely.
Even if we don't have like a role play set up at 8 o'clock, you got to be here to role play. It's like every day we are role playing practicing things. If it's nothing more than, hey, can I role play with this with you before we go on an appointment? We're always engaging in some sort of role playing.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, so getting low on time here. I've got a couple of bullet points. I'm just going to shoot by you real quick, and then just step in anytime you want. So, and this will answer the questions that I've gotten. And if anybody else has any more questions, just reach out to us. We'd love to help you. So, first 3 months in the business, definitely practice. And again, practice as much as, that person needs to practice to be at whatever level you want to be in. Calling, just sold, just listed, and a little bit of COI possibly in the first 3 months of the business, because right now you've got no database. At the same time, you want to build your database. Now, once you get in, and this is my opinion, right? So you could chime in if you disagree or have a different plan. I think by the time you get to your 4th month, now you've accumulated some sort of database and call in the first 3 months. So in addition to your COI and just sold, just listed, now you can start calling database. And that goes into the conversation of follow-up. So how important do you think, I know the answer, but I want to hear from you, and the people need to hear from you. How important is follow-up?
I mean, well, it's critical. I mean, 90% of all the business that you ever generate will come after a follow-up.
Yeah.
You call an expired, you're probably not listing it on the phone. You're going to be following up with another call and another call. Then you got an appointment. Then you got
unless you're Kevin Mills.
Yeah, there you go. He's going to love that props. He's going to love that. And that is about right. That is about right. It's very rare. But just like if you really look at it, the majority of the business that we do will come from some sort of follow-up. The challenge is that follow-up, there's more to it than the follow-up is a big word. It's a very broad way of describing something, because sometimes we get a lead and we only have to follow up for 2 weeks or 1 week. And sometimes we have to follow up for 1 year or 2 years. Now, I know that may sound ridiculous. And you're saying, some people could say, well, I'm never going to follow up with somebody like that. I'll just throw them in the trash. But if you can use automation to follow up with them and put them in your database, then there's no need to throw that in the trash. That's what we call figuring out, using automation to monetize the no. Because you can monetize all the no's if you have the proper follow-up systems. And that's where things like our CRMs, whether we use Real Geeks for the CRM, whether we use Contact Junkie for some of the short-term follow-up that we're doing, those things really matter if you want to scale your business.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's rare you're going to get someone on the first call to list, but follow-up in my mind is, and we talked about this many times, is you're just moving the football down the field. That's what the follow-up is. And sometimes, you get 2 big plays as a touchdown, but sometimes it's 2 or 3 yards at a time. So depending on the lead, and follow-up is crucial. And especially as you get deeper and deeper into a career in real estate, it's all going to be follow-up. Most of your business is going to come back from follow-up, not from immediate people.
Yeah. So I know Anton, and I love this guy, Anton Thomas. He's a good friend of mine. I say a good friend. We've met and became very friendly with each other. So Anton, I see on Facebook you put on there, how do you help agents business plan? Buyer agents and listing agents, do you have them do monthly planning as well? So what I'm doing, Anton, is I really focus at, usually my mindset is next year, our year starts really November 1st. That's when our year starts. So we start doing business planning, usually in October for the following year, because we need to already be working our plan. So we're generating the momentum we need on January 1st. We can't start cold on January 1st, because then we take a month and now we've only got 11 months left of really being warmed up and having momentum. So we got to start at the end of this year. We got to start jogging towards the starting line so we can really shoot off in full sprint. That's number one, is we start business planning in the fall of the previous year. And we really go out and work with agents and write, really not elaborate as in, too big of a plan, but we really break down the goals. We look at the recap from last year, and we start identifying, based on your activities, your skill sets, your ratios. If you want to reach this number, this is what you're going to have to do on an annual, on a week, on a monthly, a weekly, and a daily basis. Now, do I continue to do monthly planning? No, I really don't do monthly planning, but we do daily accountability. So you can do monthly planning, but a lot of things will slip through the cracks in a month. You can hide, like you can do very well for the first week of the month, and then you can get real slippery, and then you got 3 weeks to the end of the month before you reevaluate and have to look yourself in the face in the mirror and admit that you screwed up, and then you start all over. I'd rather put you in a situation of breaking down your goals to a daily standpoint and set up daily accountability on it. Hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. So let's go back to, 4 months in the business. Now you can have a database that you can go back to. Mm-hmm. At what point do you think, like I put down 6 months. I think when I hit the 6 month mark, I started doing expireds and FSBOs, because I felt like at that point, had enough experience, had enough confidence, which I think to me is the most important thing in any of this. I get asked all the question, what's the most important thing? To me, it's confidence. Confidence on the phone, confidence in the listing presentation means everything. So do you think at a 6 month mark that the average agent can actually start taking on other pillars like an expired or a FSBO?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I don't know that, I could say yes, I could say no, because I don't think the time frame matters. Like, let me just speak to you, okay? The reason why you could do it in 6 months, because expireds is definitely a higher level of a pillar, and the confrontation is higher and the rejection is massive. Right. So for somebody like you, then how many contacts were you making in your first 6 months? Say your first 6 months, how many contacts did you make per day?
I was about 6,000 contacts in. So I was doing about 60 a day.
Okay, 6,000 contacts in at the first 6 months?
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark, between 5 and 7, yeah.
Yeah, because of the 12,000. Okay, got it. So because you had put in that much practice, that it was the 6,000 contacts that got you to
gotcha, not the 6 months.
To the 6 months, got you to call expires. If you would have taken, this is a good point. There again, I'm patting myself.
Let me get my pen. Hold on.
Yeah, I get excited when I can see what's getting ready to come out of my mouth. If it would have taken you 1 year to make those 6,000 contacts, then you shouldn't start your expired calling until 1 year.
That's a great point.
Now imagine those people that in their first year, they don't even make any contacts. And then in the second year, they get the courage to make 10 contacts a day. How many days has to go by, or months or years has to go by to generate the skills necessary to actually play at that game, the expired game? So I won't put a date on it. I'm not going to put a month on it. I'm going to put amount of practice on it. Now, the good thing is if you would have made 120 contacts a day instead of 60, I don't think that's, it's like, I guess it's not impossible, but you would have just wanted to quit if you would have done that. But if you would have, then maybe you could have been calling the expireds in 3 months. I really think that's the correlation. That's
a great point. So you actually, on that note, you actually have the ability to accelerate your experience and accelerate your business based on the number of contacts. Yeah, it's interesting.
So people have asked me, it's like, Greg, how do you have these agents coming into business? They get their license, and in their first year, they're doing 40 transactions. Right. And I've got agents that they won't do 40 transactions in 5 years. Well, then I say, okay, well, how many contacts does your agent make? Well, 10. Well, it's probably none, but let's just say they said 10. And then I say, well, mine made 50. So my agents made 5 times the number of contacts on a daily basis. So they got to their goal 5 times faster.
Right.
Everybody's going to get there. It's just a matter of how many days is it going to take you to get there. And those that are not making any contacts, it's going to take a lot longer.
Gotcha. It's kind of like dog years. So in our office, we're like dog years. Every year is like 7. Or is it 15? Is it 7 or 15? What's a dog year?
Man, yeah, I get the point.
You get the point. Gotcha. That's
cool.
It's pretty much everything on my list.
Okay. Let's good. So, Abe, this was fun. I enjoy this. And, and I hope the people that are watching this live, actually, there's more people watching it live right now than I anticipated. That's a good number. So I hope that this will continue to grow. But one of our intentions, I think, is to do this on a weekly basis with Real Estate Sales Solutions. And I just had an idea, within Real Estate Sales Solutions Facebook page, I think what we can do, Abe, is we can start to look at the comments and the questions
Right.
and the conversations that are going on every week. And then we review that before we get on one of these calls and do one of these lives. We review that. And a lot of what we'll talk about is the conversations that were taking place in the previous week. Maybe that'll be some value for the listeners.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. And if we can help somebody kickstart their business, and that's what it's about. That makes it fun. Yeah.
All right. Well,
all right. Great talking to you. Let's do it again. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us. Real estate sales solutions, whatever you need, we're here. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.